Hi, I'm Shane Friel, and this is my podcast on mass media and mental health. I'll be talking about just the adverse effects of overutilization of social media, and just some of the things that we are all familiar with, as I imagine many of us utilize social media or even grew up as these things came to be. That's an experience I can definitely understand. It's like I remember being a kid when Instagram first came out and the peer pressure to get these things because other kids were getting them and you didn't want to miss out, some of that FOMO. Um, Definitely just a really, it's something I've wanted to examine is the effects that this has had, like social media has had, particularly on my generation, um, as these social media, websites develop as we develop as human beings and how it defines our understanding of how we socialize or how the world works, whatever. So social media is something I personally try to refrain from utilizing too much because I've seen the effect it has had on me as an individual and others in my life over utilization of this stuff. And I know that I have personal experience with anxiety and depression, and I know that most people who overutilize social media experience these things. Um, and more people now than ever are using social media, so it feels like we should try to get a better understanding of how this stuff affects our health. Um, so now it says, according to Pew, 72% of people in the United States now use social media, which is just insane. I mean, even my grandmothers are active on social media. My mom's sending me Instagram reels. It's insane to see how this has become a staple in everybody's life. Like I remember when I was a kid, my parents saying turn off the phone, and now it's like every time I'm home, I see my parents, and they're just the moment they get off their work screens, they're going to either their laptop or their phone, and they're on social media. Um, it's just baffling to see how it has changed the way everybody socializes. And definitely a big FOMO thing. Like that's something I struggle with on social media is just seeing everybody, all my peers, family, friends, seeing what they're doing, comparing it to yourself. Which I feel like life was already hard enough when you didn't know everything that was going on outside of your sphere. People were already going crazy from their experience in the world, not having all the information that we now do. Um, so I feel like that's something we should definitely think about. I think of the adage you give. I'm not sure if this is from a comic or something that I read where it's we gave humans the power to do anything, and they use it to destroy themselves, and that's really what this kind of feels like. Because social, if you went and told somebody, like a great intellectual back in the day, like a Socrates guy, that you can communicate with anybody, there's an open exchange of information. Um, you think that they'd be like, that's insane, so it's used for to better society, and it's no, takes time away from actually experiencing the real world. Just overall, I feel like social media, my mom always said too much of a good thing is a bad thing, and I'm not even sure social media is necessarily a good thing. So I don't know. I just personally, I'd use it sparingly. Um, I mean, it has. I mean, the more we use it, the more time we research it, the more we see it does have direct effects on anxiety, depression, you know? Like, I don't know why we aren't taught this as, you know, young kids, and especially like with bullying, you know. I mean, it's just like anybody can interact with anybody with no, you know, no repercussions, no consequences for their actions on social media. So that needs to change. Especially nowadays, teens are spending 5 hours a day on social media apps. And then at the same time as this stuff is increasing, from the National Alliance on Mental Illness, we see that, oh, as we increase use of social media, feelings of sadness or hopelessness increase by a similar metric. So it's like, I mean, it disrupts sleep. It, you know, it makes you more at risk for, you know, plenty of things. To be abused, to be bullied, especially if you're a minority or LGBTQ, you know. Personally, I've experienced that, you know. But just overall, to bring it back together, I think social media it generally could be a good thing if we used it uh, for virtuous purposes, but we don't. So I think all of us should definitely. My brother always says, like, anytime when I was younger and I was freaking out about something politically or whatever on social media, my brother always just used to tell me, social media is not real, you know? And here he said, the internet's not real. And it's like, you got to go outside. You got to interact in real life. And I feel like the more that I do that and the less that I spend time on these kind of apps, the better I feel. The better relationships I have, you know. I mean, regardless of how good your relationships are on social media, like a human element is going to be missed over any virtual communication that we just need as human beings. You know, we're animals and we need it. So definitely use social media sparingly and focus on your mental health. You know, put your mental health and your real life. You know, the real world above the virtual. Thanks.